You all know the magnetic filter system, right? You put on a filter and the magnets snap and hold it in place. It allows you to switch filters super fast. Well, this filter uses a different system. No magnets, but it's equally fast. So let me show you how it works, what the advantages are, and also why a VND combined with a polarizer is actually pretty useful. And no, it's not to get rid of reflections on windows so you can peep through to see who or what's inside. No. Man, how many times I've read that in the comments under a video I made about polarizers? Insane. But anyway, here we go. Okay, so I use different types of ND and VND filters. Different brands, different mechanisms, and I don't have a favorite brand or type or anything. I switch depending on how I feel or depending on what the job of the day requires. You know what I mean? Lately I've also been trying out ND filters in combination with a matte box. Love it. But I also use the classic screw-on VNDs. I also use the magnetic system, which is awesome, especially for run and gun filmmakers. But I've actually had an accident with my magnetic filters. Look, I don't know if you can see it right here. Can you see it? Yeah, there. See? Yeah, so one day I bumped it into my backpack or something, I think, and it fell on the ground. And of course it was my fault, but that's something that can't happen with this new real locking system from Freewell. It doesn't have any magnets, so you just press the two tabs on the side, put it on your lens, release the tabs, and it locks in place. And it really locks in place. So that's pretty cool because it's equally fast and you can't accidentally knock it off when you bump your lens into something. Now look, I'm not saying that this system is better than the magnetic system or the magnetic locking system or any other system. It's just different. All have their advantages and disadvantages, and in my opinion it's just a matter of personal preference. Some of you will prefer the traditional magnetic system, some of you will prefer this, and some of you probably prefer fixed NDs instead of a VND, and that's all fine, of course. Now, the way this works is actually pretty similar to the classic magnetic system. There's a base ring that you put on your lens. I have two base rings for my most used lenses, one for my 35mm, which has a 55mm filter thread, and one for my 17 to 28mm, which has a 67mm filter thread. And that allows me to put the same filter on both lenses. And this particular filter is actually a VND combined with a polarizer. Now, why is that useful? That combination? Because, well, look, every VND is actually just two polarizers that rotate on top of each other. And then depending on how much you rotate it, you get more or less ND. You block more or less light. And so, you know, you will always get a certain amount of cross-polarization or vignetting in the corners. It's almost unavoidable. But a VND with a separate polarization ring will make it easier to mitigate that effect, reduce it to the minimum. And on top of that, it also allows you to get rid of annoying reflections, or it will help you to get a nice deep blue sky. And the image quality of these Freewell filters is actually great. Look, for example, this is a normal VND that I have, set to its maximum of 5 stops. And this is on a 20mm lens. And see all that vignetting? Yeah. And this is when I set the lens to 17mm. And then this is the Freewell VND with the polarizer, set to 5 stops. You see the difference? So first you set the amount of ND for the correct exposure. And something I really like about this VND specifically is that it has just the right amount of resistance when rotating it. Some of the other filters I have feel a bit too stiff, and when you rotate it, or when I rotate it to change the amount of light I want to block, well, then I unscrew the filter, which is not good, of course. But yeah, that's just personal preference. But I like it that it's just the right amount of resistance for me. Anyway, so first you set the amount of ND you want, the amount of light you want to block, and then you can rotate the polarizer separately to get rid of reflections or get rid of vignetting and cross-polarization. Or, like I said, to reduce it to the minimum. And it will allow you to get a much more consistent image, because on a normal VND, when you go from 2 to 5 stops, for example, you not only change the exposure, the amount of light you let in, but also the polarization. And so your image will look different, because the polarization changes when you rotate the filter. And with the separate polarization ring, you can counter that change in polarization. Does that make sense even? In my head it sounds like simple, but when I'm trying to explain it, it's not so easy. Now look, you won't be able to get rid of all unwanted artifacts or color shift or You know, you're putting multiple pieces of glass in front of your lens, so you'll always get at least a minimal amount of something. But with an extra polarizer, you get more control. That's what it's all about. You have control. And of course, just like any other filter system, you can also stack filters. And that's of course super useful because this VND is 3 to 7 stops. But if you need more, it comes with a 5-stop fixed ND filter. And so if you stack that one on top, all of a sudden your 3 to 7 stops VND becomes an 8 to 10 stops VND. So it's a super versatile system, but it won't slow you down. And of course you can also stack your favorite creative filters on top if you want. Black Glow Mist, which will give you that nice soft highlight bloom, or Snow Mist, which adds an extra subtle haze effect. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you can use the VND on a wide lens, 16mm, with no or minimal vignetting and cross-polarization. But as soon as you start stacking filters, that limit of how wide you can go without artifacts lowers. So for example, when you stack a mist filter on top, the widest you should go is 18mm. I mean, you can go wider of course, but then you risk more vignetting, more cross-polarization, more artifacts. But like I said, you'll probably always see something. If you're super nitpicky, I don't have a filter that doesn't give me any artifacts. And I've never seen a VND that looks the same as using a lens without a filter. It's impossible. And here's the thing, if you want the cleanest image possible with filters, you should just use high quality fixed NDs. But for run and gun filmmakers, a system like this, it just works. I really like it. I also like my magnetic filter system. So let me know in the comments, what would you prefer? Magnetic, real locking, magnetic locking, magnets, no magnets, fixed VND, VND? Let me know. You know, I just like it that these companies, they experiment, they bring out new things, and it keeps everything interesting. Here, look, by the way, these, where was it? I have to find it, of course. Oh, it's in the nice little leather pouch. You also get that, a nice leather pouch. Ah, here, see, the cap. It's a great card. It's just fun, you know? Okay, anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.